What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 4 of Tech Backstage. My name is Eddie Hudson, here with my co-host Tulio Siragusa and our guest for today, Jacob Borgeson from Wyng. How you all doing?
Very good. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great.
Yeah.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time to join us, Jacob. We appreciate it.
Of course.
You're in Austin, Texas right now. How's the weather there?
It's hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have 6 months of summer in Texas and we're in month 2. So
I totally get it, man. That's great. So how things been going? So tell me a little bit, I guess first and foremost, let's jump into it. So you are product manager for Wyng, right? Did I say that right?
Product marketing. So direct
Product marketing. And so tell me a little bit about, just let's talk a little bit about you for a second. Let's hear a little bit about your story, how you got to Wyng, and, what brought you into product marketing.
Yeah, I would say it's a unique journey, but I think most people of my age group have had the similar kind of life experience where you get a degree or two and then you do nothing that is associated with that degree.
Yeah.
So I started with an electrical engineering degree, and then got an MBA right after that and kind of popped out of school right into marketing, of course, which is where you go with an engineering degree. So at Texas Instruments is where I started. Actually, did a lot of stuff there, spent about 6 years there, did a bunch of marketing, product management. It was a joke because the job title was product marketing engineer, but people said that also stood for pretty much everything, because you could be assigned to any sort of job. I ran a global university program. I launched new technologies, working with teams of engineers around the world, and I built web design tools and web experiences for people across the 6 years I was there. And so, yeah, the last thing I did there was, before I moved down to Austin, was launch a new technology for memory technology. And as one of very few people in the world kind of working on this, it's something that Texas Instruments had invented. For those who don't know, Texas Instruments does a lot more than calculators, a lot more. They make a lot of the world's chips. And so that kind of new technology caught the attention of a couple other companies, and they decided they wanted to do something with that new technology. So they created this really small skunkworks team here in Austin that I worked at for a little over a year. That was my intro into the startup scene. Loved it. Kind of like in a rented office space with like 4 people in a small room, just working every day on building this thing. That didn't work out, but then that's how I got into software startups. So worked at a few software startups around town, around collaboration and marketing, logistics. And then my last tour was at Koros, which is a kind of private equity company, which actually had a team of people. So at startups, I was doing this hire number 20, first product marketing hire, first marketing hire, straddling roles between product management and marketing, mostly in charge of like launching products and taking them to market and enabling sales teams. And that's kind of what I'm doing here at Wyng. So 7 months ago, I jumped at the chance to join Wyng because of the problem that we're solving.
Yeah, for sure. And so really quick, I want to jump into that problem that we're solving at Wyng, because I think, we had this discussion last week, and I think it's a super interesting thing, and I think it's super relevant and really important. But tell us a little bit about the difference between product marketing and like traditional marketing. Like what at Wyng, how does your role contribute to, getting this product out to market, making sure that people are aware of it? For those that aren't 100% aware of what a product marketer does.
Yeah, so I always say that there's 3 big jobs for product marketing, and it's all kind of very vague, but mostly you see them at technology companies. And when I started, there wasn't really, I was like a new thing, product marketing. Mm-hmm. So it's a part of marketing, usually. It can be a part of the product organization, but it's really 3 big jobs. 1 is launching products, taking them to market. 2 is like working with product management to help to define what we build and why it's important and the value proposition and messaging around it. And then the 3rd is sales enablement. So really getting the message out to the sales team, getting them the tools they need, getting feedback from them. The best definition I had for it, there's a lot of things that fall under that umbrella. The best definition I had for it is from my last boss at Koros, who said, our job is to be the voice of the company to the market and the voice of the market to the company. So what we do is we do a lot of research, usually a lot of analysis, a lot of talking to customers, and kind of use that information to help inform other teams at the company about how to talk about our products and sell them.
Very cool.
Sounds very design thinking oriented.
Oh yeah. I actually took the IDEO human-centered design course a few years back, and it definitely helps.
Very nice.
Very cool. So yeah, let's jump into it. So you said that you came to Wyng because of the problem that Wyng's trying to solve. So let's talk a little bit about that. So data, and privacy. It's a big deal right now.
Yeah, it is. I think. So I'll just start at the most controversial way, since this is a podcast.
That's what we're looking for.
That's what I'll do.
I think the title is something around data and privacy, the debate. Wyng has the answer. That's a pretty bold statement. So what is the question?
Yeah, well, so the problem is that marketing sucks. Nobody likes it. Everybody hates it. You don't go nobody's like, wow, marketing when you go to the family barbecue. They're not like super proud of you. So my problem with that is I've been doing marketing for 15 years, and I'm of the belief that most people are mostly good, and even marketers, they're trying to do a good thing, trying to educate people about what the service and value that their company creates. Like, companies only exist because they create value for people, and marketers are just trying to teach people about that value. That's the heart of the profession and where it came from. But it's kind of devolved into this like spam tactics, data funnel driven, like incentivizing the wrong behavior. And now we have this like super creepy internet full of spammy ads that follows you around and tracks everything you do. And then there's this creepy, shady back room of people trading data about you and this like looking at everything you do, this like surveillance economy, which is really horrible. And for whatever reason, marketing has gotten caught up in this loop of just like relying on that and feeding that monster. And it's made it no fun. Like, I don't like creating content for the monster, because it's just like, oh, I'm going to play this game of creating content and ads that I pay for 1 million people to see, and then 100 of them click on it, and I send those 100 people 1,000 emails until 5 of them take a call, and then 2 people buy my product. And this is like soul-crushing numbers game that sucks. Nobody likes making content for that machine. Nobody likes having that machine power the internet. And so really the conflict of data and privacy is like, okay, nobody wants that anymore. And that's all driven by this privacy last world, where we never thought of privacy. We never thought of any of those things. We just like said, oh, data, let's use it. There's no penalties. There's no problems with it. It's never going to hurt anybody. It's just data. So we did that. And, now we know that's not true. Data hurts lots of people and it's bad. So like when you misuse it, like anything. And so now I think there's an opportunity for a world though, where we build better experiences and we go back to the roots of marketing, of teaching people about the value that companies have based on taking a privacy first approach. Like, okay, it's your data, you own it, you have transparency, choice, and control over what happens to it. And that's where we're coming at with Wyng. And the end all of it is like, you don't, like, that doesn't mean people aren't going to share data with you. People want to share data with you if they believe it's valuable for them.
Yeah.
And the trick is that we just have to make that value obvious. And it's a much more fun and rewarding way to do marketing than the old way.
Yeah, for sure. I think you're in such an interesting position too, because it's like the problem that Wyng is trying to solve right now is literally how not your profession, but like the focus of marketing, which is the position that you're in, uses and consumes data. So it's like this like paradigm. You're like kind of like the twilight zone of like, oh, I'm in marketing, but we're also trying to protect data and privacy, which is really cool.
Yeah, I'm taking that term from you. Next time someone presents a really awful marketing idea, I'm just going to say that's spamtastic. So you said something interesting. I had this visual of like a beautiful puppy. When you get a nice puppy and they're sweet and nice, and you like nice puppy, good puppy, or when they're misbehaving, you're like bad puppy. Except in this case, it's like good data, bad data. So what makes good data and bad data? What's the thought process there?
Yeah. I mean, I think that goes back to that privacy first versus privacy last. Like, good data is data that people give you. Like, companies spend so much time and money trying to make assumptions and inferences about people based on their behavior or their demographics, what they click on, what they search for, whatever. Like, just ask. Like, people, if you ask nicely, people will tell you what they want. Even if you don't ask nicely. I mean, if you've been in some like hardware stores, you don't people aren't always nice when you walk in. You can sometimes just say like, "Hey, I'm looking for this," and sometimes you have to go tell a person like what you're looking for, which is how web pages should work. Like, there's no reason that the internet can't work like it works in real stores.
Yeah. I think, to kind of like piggyback on your question, Tulio, Jacob, when we were talking last week, there was something that you had mentioned that I think is really relevant right now. And it's talking about the FANGs and how they use data, and how a lot of people just assume because the way that they consume data, it's easy, but really what's going on there, and this, I think this recently came to light with when Facebook was under scrutiny from the government, I think, and talking about like, oh, we actually don't know all the places our data is being used right now because we have an open data consumption policy within the company. And I think one of the things that you said, and I think it's super relevant, which is brands are struggling to get the most out of the data because not everybody can consume and transform data the way that the large companies do. And I think that's a really important thing going back to the good data because, like, especially for me or for, anybody else who's a consumer, like you said, I think it's important to think about the fact that there are things that I want to be marketed for, right? Like, there are things that I'm looking to purchase and I'm willing to share that information. But then all of a sudden, them being able to, predict where I'm going to be at 4:30 this afternoon is a little bit terrifying, right? But I think it goes back to, I think a really important thing that you had mentioned is how brands are struggling to work with their data. How are you guys helping with that? Like, how is Wyng helping companies to, to move towards this privacy first model, but also help out, in the process?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. It's all about focusing on moving towards more of this zero party data, which is data that people intentionally share with you, whereas first party data is behaviors that you observe on your own properties, and third party data is data you purchase or get from somewhere else. Zero party data is kind of this invented term that talks about intentionally and voluntarily given data. And this is truly the best kind of data. One, because it's clear what people want. They're telling you exactly their preference. You don't have to make any assumptions or inferences. And two, because you can act on it instantly. You don't need to do any processing or number crunching. You can just take that preference and say, like, this is what you're looking for. This matches up with what we have. So companies traditionally, I think the big challenge we face is that all of the technology that companies use to handle customer data, to acquire it, to process it, to leverage it, is all based on this privacy last world. And it's all based on like these deals of getting third-party data and enrichment from all these other vendors out there selling it, from Facebook doing targeting and retargeting audiences. And so like all of the philosophy and all of the technology is built from that perspective. And what we're trying to do is get companies to move to the zero-party data perspective. So we have a zero-party data platform. We have tools to help you design experiences to collect and earn zero-party data by offering people value in exchange for their preference information, and then being able to, in an API-driven platform, plug that preference data into all your other tools instantly to drive better, more personalized, more relevant experiences. So things like directly on the website that you're on, when you give me a preference, to make it real, we'll talk about beauty. We serve a lot of beauty customers. And so people need to find the right beauty products for their skin or their hair or whatever. So we ask you what your hair is like, what your skin is like, what problem you're trying to solve. And then in turn, I recommend you straight to the products or straight to the blogs or straight to a coupon code for those specific interests that you just told me about. And like I said, it's instant. Now you're getting the browsing experience equivalent to walking into a store, telling an associate what you're looking for today. They point you to the right aisle. Maybe they ask you a couple more questions about yourself and what you're looking for. And then they point you to 3 or 4 products that are perfect for you because they know more than you do about this topic.
Yeah.
And that's
And
what we'll do digitally.
so, $1 million question here. Where does zero party data live? Is that in the Wyng platform, or how do you guys handle that?
Yeah, so we do have it in our platform, and we also help it to go wherever customers want it, like a CRM or CDP. Of course, it's inherently consent driven because people gave it to you voluntarily. And then the other big thing we do is we have a customer preference center. So allowing people to see and control and interact with the data they've shared with the brand directly on the brand's website. So now I can go in and see what preferences and data I've shared, and I can change them, I can delete them. And I have that transparency, choice, and control over what happens to my data, all in this one spot.
Wow.
So I'm curious. I spent almost 10 years in the ad tech space when it was still in its early stages, and I was terrified at this idea of the perpetually connected consumer, where you had information about every movement they make. And if you're in that space and you're trying to increase views and click-throughs, it's a strategic tool to have that information. However, in recent years, the manufacturers of those connected devices have increased their privacy capabilities. So now a lot of people are able to opt out, even mask information, for example, on the Apple platform. So marketers are left in a situation where they don't have access to that same data anymore. It's because people can literally block collecting that information. So is this a workaround that right now? How does this come into play with companies that are suddenly realized this past couple of years, wow, our strategy that has worked for over a decade doesn't work anymore. Where do we go to now? Is that your targeted audience in terms of clients? Or how is that evolving for you guys?
I mean, yeah, we're less working in the ad tech space and more in like the website, e-commerce kind of customer experience space. But that's exactly the challenge that I face, is that like all of this data deprecation is happening because of privacy laws, because technology is enabling people to opt out and have more control over their data. And then consumer behavior, like when given the option, like with iOS 14.5, when they were given the option to opt out of tracking, 86% of people did it. They said, no, I don't want to be tracked. And so there's this data apocalypse that's like you'll hear a lot about in the ad tech space and marketing space as a result. But people are still trying to do the same thing with worse data. So like most D2C and B2C brands are saying like, this isn't working anymore. So I almost cussed there. I didn't know how we do it on this podcast.
It's all good.
This isn't working anymore. I'm getting less and less results for more and more money. It's becoming less effective the more, even though I'm spending more. And so my big challenge and our challenge at Wyng is convincing people to think about it differently, to think about earning customer data, to think about asking 1 or 2 questions of people when they come on your site, and then progressively personalizing and asking for more information, 1 question at a time, so that, you know, it only takes 3 or 4 questions to have like an incredibly personalized experience that's really relevant to you that day. You can do it for anonymous visitors. You don't have to do it for logged in people when you're doing preference-based personalization. So it's really about getting people to think about it differently. And a lot of people are just stuck in this idea of like, you know, I have to do targeting audiences and I have to do these campaigns. It's like, no, actually, if you rethink from the customer perspective what you want to do and what they want to accomplish and how you can serve them through that journey and offer value at every interaction, it's not rocket surgery, you know, like you're just doing what people want.
It's interesting. I'm dating myself here, but it reminds me of the days before the internet when there were research companies that would call and interview people and collect information and send out mailers and do surveys. And that was good business to get that insight. But that business kind of died with all the accessible information. So are you saying this is kind of a hybrid now where you can reapply some of those principles, but obviously using digitized platforms? Is that what you guys are facilitating? Can you give us an idea of sort of like what it is right now and what's the future looking like for you, for the end customer that uses Wyng?
It's less focus group research, like audience information, and more one-on-one personalization. So more like I come to a website, I tell you that I'm looking for skin moisturizer, like I have dry skin today, and you say, okay, cool. Well, now I can feed that into my back end and say, like, now I'll only show you testimonials for people with dry skin that used our products, or I'll take you right to the products for dry skin. And then incrementally getting better and narrower and a more personalized experience the more I know about you. So like most companies have a plethora of products to serve a wider variety of audiences, and it's ineffective to serve that generic all of our products experience to every single person. So more what you want to do is make it easy for people to find what applies to them.
Very cool. Very cool. Question: how are you guys, especially as we drive into the future where everything's starting to become integrations and services? How are you guys integrating with customer platforms, and how are you guys? I always like to think of it as like, especially a company like Wyng, like you guys are kind of like a bolt-on extension of an existing platform. So how does that work?
Yeah, so I mean, we came at this from the original philosophy, the two founders, that we wouldn't be API first and build this company that way, because we know that it's not realistic to go into a company and say, you need to rip out all that old marketing tech and put in this new zero-party data stuff. It's just not realistic, and it's not possible. So we're designed to kind of be really flexible, both with our platform and kind of having these different components around experience design or APIs or data models or profile stitching and management, and have flexibly deploy those to different customers for different needs, and really start moving kind of like one preference at a time towards a more privacy first world. Like you don't need to rip out everything. You can kind of ask customers one thing, get better at that, ask another. So for most customers, we only do like 2 or 3 experiences of data collection for 2 or 3 preferences in the first couple months. And then we also have flexible services. So not only we have the software side of the house, we have a services team that's designed to help you augment your team to either build the experiences or come up with the strategy or do the analytics and reporting, whatever kind of need your company has, we can help you fill it.
Very cool. And then I guess from there, the way that it would work is basically, the customers can build out the experience that they want, making it super flexible and super powerful, and then feed that into your platform, which is the zero party platform. Then again, pull that information back out to create the rest of the experience, like Tulia was talking about, the actual marketing experience to get people to what they're actually looking for at the end, right?
Yeah, the way it works for most customers is they use our Experience Studio to build a few experiences on their website to collect data and kind of offer instant value. Then they pull that into, say, like an e-commerce platform or a CMS platform to power different personalization experiences on their website using those preferences. And then they also take that data to like an email or an SMS marketing platform. So now that they can segment communications based on the fact that they know you're interested, and things like that. And it kind of grows over time as, one, you can do a lot of stuff for anonymous visitors on the website without ever having to know an email address or anything. And then if you know their email address or SMS, you can kind of extend the value of that information and help people with more relevant stuff over time.
So, Jacob, what you just described, anyone who's done that, there's a lot of moving pieces to make that happen, right? I mean, you've got the ingestion, you've got the analytics engine, all these things, the intelligence to match up the right set of data with the right set of requirements and needs. How much of that are you guys involved with? Is it just the data that becomes accessible and then someone has to use some other AI engine to parse it and figure out the right permutation to do the right matching, or are you guys supporting that as well? And if not today, is that something in the future? Just curious to hear where does your service begin and end in terms of that ecosystem?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the big trick too, is once anybody can kind of understand this like website personalization stuff, but the next big step is then how do I change my overall strategy And that goes to what you said about like integrating with different platforms, coming up with, a lot of people want to integrate with loyalty programs because they want to incentivize people sharing data with like points systems. Or they want to, integrate with things like communities or product recommendation engines, which is one you mentioned, like AI-based
personalization engines, right?
So like AWS has a really good one. It's basically they're now selling the recommendation engine technology that Amazon uses to recommend you products, so that any company can buy that kind of capability. And so that's one thing where, hey, we're just in early talks with customers trying to do stuff like that. People who have large product portfolios and with thousands of products and can't like do this manual, like this 100 products aligns with this preference group, because they're constantly making new products and constantly doing new things.
Yeah.
So they need an AI engine to be able to kind of connect preferences and product attributes together.
So
great.
your API is designed to be friendly across the board in that ecosystem, because there's a lot of pieces coming together.
Yep. Yeah. So it's all like profile. Yeah. It's definitely designed for that. Like we have a kind of a profiles SDK that's really designed to make it simple to do those kind of function calls on the back end between like product attributes and profile groups and customer segments that have common attributes, to easily be served whatever relevant experience.
And you said that there's a studio as well, a Wyng Studio?
Yeah, so the history of Wyng is actually longer than a few years. So it was a company in the past that specifically did a lot around social media and online experiences. And so we had a drag and drop no code experience design studio, and we've added more experience types. We have like the usual like quizzes and surveys and gamified and sweepstakes stuff and pop-ups, but we also have more kind of zero-party data oriented experiences like contextual preferences, where you can drop a little tiny button on a page when somebody says like, I'm interested in beach vacations. You can say, I add beaches to your preferences, and now that's a part of your profile. And next best question, which is basically a cool one where depending on what we know about you, we can serve up a relevant embedded or pop-up experience to get the next most important preference from you. And it's just a single click, multiple choice, like don't have to fill anything out, super easy for customers to do, and instantly offers value. When you finish it, it says, okay, cool, here's the most relevant help for your answer.
Okay, I have to ask this because you think you said something so big and I don't want to pass over it. When people think about ingesting data and getting access to data, it's like engineers need to be involved. There's a lot of coding involved. So did I hear this correctly? Your platform is built on a no code environment where a marketer can actually integrate this information without needing an engineer. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, there's different degrees of that. There's different degrees of that, right? Like depending on what platforms you want to integrate with, like you integrate with a CDP, you're probably going to need some help there.
Right.
But customer data platform, for those who haven't heard that one, alphabet soup. But the experience design studio is drag and drop no code, like, drag and drop forms and pictures and stuff. And then the data that comes in is just simply creating like, I want to add this attribute for travel preferences, and then setting up the attributes, and then it's all available via the API if you need it. Things like, and then we productize a lot of integration. So basically every time we do one integration for a customer becomes a productized integration that all you have to do is say, you get a little menu that says, hey, this attribute I'm collecting here in Wyng matches to this attribute name in whatever platform, like Attentive or something for SMS messaging. And that's it. That's the integration. Now the fields are mapped, and now you can go use it in the other product as you need. So it's definitely designed that way.
So just to quickly recap, because I like to keep things simple. Easy, opted-in data, clean data, and easy to digest and move and use data. Mm-hmm. That's it.
And privacy friendly.
Yeah. If you want to get better at serving your customers, don't use don't try to guess what they want. Just ask nicely, and then use it right away and be helpful. That's the biggest thing.
Very cool.
Goes back to the design thinking. Ask more questions.
Always.
Ask
Yeah.
more questions.
Well, and I think you're also too, if you're doing that, you're actually getting, I think you're getting better results. I mean, Jacob, like you said, yeah, maybe there's companies out there that just have like, a data team locked in a basement somewhere analyzing data, but for the, a bunch of like squirrels just typing. No, but like most of the time, like real people that have like, lives and like have to actually get off work at 6 and go to a soccer game or something like that. We really need to be able to look for people that we want to market to, right? Like good marketing is finding people that would benefit from your products. Bad marketing is tricking somebody into using your product when they don't need it, right? And so for you to have a meaningful impact on somebody, you have to know that you're going to have a product that benefits them.
Mhm.
And having relevant data that they want to share. I mean, going back to that, like that's the most valuable thing that you can have in marketing. And, and like you said, at that point, you're not complete, you're not trying to get a CTR above 1% or something like that. Like you're just looking for people that genuinely can benefit from your product. And I think that's huge.
Yeah. And I would say these days in a low trust world that we live in, your marketing has to offer value too. It can't just be your products. Like every interaction you have with a customer has to be valuable for them to build trust, to get engagement, and to make them want to buy stuff.
Yeah. Great stuff. Well, Jacob, thanks so much for joining us. That's I think we're just at time right now, but we appreciate it, and it was great to learn about how Wyng is transforming the debate, or not the debate, but transforming data and privacy.
Yeah, of course. I'm really happy to talk about it with you guys, and I'll talk about this topic as much as I can, as long as I can, in as many places that I can. So, because I believe in it. So,
fantastic. Well, thank you so much.